Okay, back for part two, and this should be a short wrap up here. The point, this is really sort of long and confusing for not much of an advantage. We saw in our program, well, just to print out a couple of names, it was a whole bunch of lines of code. Why do we care? Why would we do that? Well, the advantage in using records is by defining our own data types. The idea in computer science, you know, where we get more flexible with our programs, we're making our own data types. We're not stuck to just string arrays or just integer arrays. We saw that in that the hockey one that we had to have a different array for the name as for all of the points and losses and stuff like that. Well, that doesn't have to be when we use records. It allows our programs to become more flexible when we define our own data types. In Java, we're actually entering a whole new programming realm called object-oriented programming. But that's another course, ICS4U. And we honestly are touching on it right now. This idea of a student one, we think of it as a record, but in Java, it's actually called an object. And then when we're assigning values, we're assigning attributes of that object. And where we thought of Husky as a record type in object-oriented program, that's called a class. And you're not going to have to worry too much about that, but we will want to practice our record making. And that might be it, actually. No, even better. Oh, yeah, even better. So we can define an array of these records. So notice that once we define our data types, our record type, we can actually make an array of them. And I'll show you that in the Husky thing. So for instance, we might want an array of Huskies. Husky array. Maybe we'll call it ICS3U, right? Because that would be an array of Huskies. New Husky. And we could have this any size we want, whatever size we want, but I'm going to keep it small for now, 3. And then how would we do this is we could refer to the individual members of that as ICS3U, and then remember the arrays have the subscripts, right? So 0 would be the first one, and that would be of type Husky. But if we wanted to assign a name to that person, first name equals Alex. CS3U. O dot last name equals whatever. And so on, right? If we wanted to assign other values, to another student, we could access it this way. Year of birth equals 2001, whatever we would like. And we can access the individual members of the array. And then that right there is more like what a database sounds like. So the database name would be the array of the records, how many ever records we want. And it says initialize each object using the similar code as before. So each object is a new record name, where we could do that. I think right now my code would give an error, but maybe not. So here I'd have to first make ICS3U 0, a new Husky, and then assign some values. ICS1, ICS3U, person 1 is a new Husky, and then start assigning some values. And I'm thinking that's going to work now. Yeah, it works, but then didn't do anything because we never printed out these values using the array. But I think I'm hoping you get the picture. And so we assign these new names. It says this could have been done in a loop, right? So I could initialize all my my values, my Husky values in a loop, right? So once I've created my array of Huskies called ICS3U, I could do it in a loop. For int I equals 0, I has got to be less than the ICS3U.length, remember? That gives me the length of that array, so that'll be how many Huskies we have in ICS3U. And then we're going to go I++. And then we could have a loop for the array. And for ICS3U I is a new Husky. And so on. So that would actually take the place of that line, and we wouldn't need this line anymore, and we could initialize all of our array very quickly using a loop like that. And certainly, I suppose, we could assign values in this array if we wanted to. Once they were created, Husky I dot first name, and maybe we wanted to read that from the this isn't very friendly code because it would just sit there blinking at me, but it would work. So it's blinking at me. So Ferd is that name, and then it's asking looped again. Not very friendly, but Alex and Bill, not Phil. Bill. There we go. And then it prints it off that stuff at the end that I hadn't commented out. And I could read all of those into my database in this loop, or I could do that in a separate loop, and that would be up to you. Anything else? Then we could refer to individual records in the array, and we had some practice doing that. DB name, that should have been, by the way, a square brackets, where I would be the record that we are interested in dealing with. 0 was student 0, and 0 ended up being Alex, and student 1 we haven't given a name to, and so on. Okay, then we can refer to those individual records and all of their attributes, not just one at a time, using the subscript of the database. Okay, so I think that's it. I think the first exercise is for you to take this Husky example here, and clean it up. I'm going to delete all this stuff, sort of copy that in there, delete all that, and I'm going to copy this code if I can. Something like that. I'm going to take a picture of it. You should do the same. Our example so far. Where are we here? There we go. Fumbling. There we go. There's our example. Bam. There's our example. And I think the first exercise is for you to add to this and get it all working, and then printing out all of the data, not just bits and pieces like we have in the example. Okay. Have fun playing around with records. If there's something you didn't understand, be sure you ask. I know it's starting to build up a little bit and get a little bit strange, but just ask.